Welcome to the IBM Cloud Developer Certification Section 5.4 Overview, Source Code Management, and Build and Deploy Pipeline Services. In this section, we will explore how to manage and deliver application code using a project repository and build and deploy cloud applications using continuous integration pipelines. In your IBM Bluemix DevOps Services projects, you can use one of three source control management systems: a Git repository that is hosted on IBM Bluemix, a GitHub repository, or a Jazz source control management repository that is hosted on Bluemix. You select a source control system when you create your project. For GitHub, you can either create a GitHub repo or link to an existing repo. When linking to GitHub, you will need to enable access to your GitHub account from DevOps Services. You can also create a Git repository that is hosted on Bluemix. If you store your code in a Git repository, you can work with code in a Git terminal or in a web-integrated development environment. If you work on a local workstation, you can use Git terminal commands to edit the contents of your hosted repository. If you use the web IDE, you don't need the Git terminal. You can run many common Git commands inside the web IDE. To access Git commands from the web IDE, click the Git repository icon. No matter where you code, it is possible to integrate DevOps services into your common tasks. The third option for source management is Jazz SCM. Jazz SCM works well with Eclipse and IBM Rational Team Concert. If you use Jazz SCM for your IBM Bluemix DevOps Services project, you can either work locally and deliver changes through Eclipse or work by using the integrated web IDE. If you work locally and deliver changes through Eclipse, you can install the IBM Rational Team Concert plugin for version control. If you use the Track and Plan feature to manage your project plans and work items, you can also access your work items from Eclipse. The IBM Bluemix DevOps Services Build and Deploy feature, also known as the pipeline, automates the continuous deployment of your projects. In a project's pipeline, sequences of stages retrieve input and run jobs such as builds, tests, and deployments. The Build and Deploy feature automates your builds, deployments, and more. You can configure the stages to build automatically when changes are pushed to your repository. Then you can deploy those builds to multiple environments in IBM Bluemix. You can see which builds and deployments are running in your environments, and you can even watch live logs and follow progress. When configuring the build and deploy pipeline, you can configure build stages to automatically start executing whenever a change is introduced to a specific source repository. Build artifacts can then be used as input to subsequent stages for test or deployment actions. We cover the IBM Bluemix DevOps Services Build and Deploy pipeline in detail in Section 5.5. This concludes the IBM Cloud Developer Section 5.4 overview. Additional information can be found at https://hub.jazz.net/docs/source-control and https://hub.jazz.net/docs/deploy. You can also find some practical exercises in the associated study material. Look for the IBM Cloud Developer Certification Section 5.4 lab.